We're diving into a story today that it flips the whole script on crime reporting. Imagine for a second you survive this terrifying, really sophisticated home invasion and kidnapping. A total nightmare. You're tied up, you're drugged, you're held captive for days. And then, when it's over, instead of getting help, the police hold a press conference. And they accuse you of making the whole thing up. They call your trauma a Gone Girl-style hoax.
That's exactly what happened to Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn in Vallejo, California, back in 2015. I mean, their case went viral, but not just because of the crime itself. It was because of this immediate, just aggressive disbelief from law enforcement. It became this really painful, very public example of how institutional bias can cause a trauma that's almost worse than the original crime.
Yeah. So our deep dive today, we're going to use the source material, their own accounts, the awful interrogation transcripts, to really get at how this confirmation bias just blinded investigators. It let the real kidnapper, Matthew Muller, stay free. And, crucially, he was able to strike again. We're going to trace the failure of these old-school police interrogation methods and look at the science-based solutions that Denise and Aaron are now fighting for. Okay, let's unpack this journey from victim to crusader for reform.
What's just so fascinating here is how fast that narrative flipped. I mean, it went from a search for a missing person to condemning the surviving partner, all before anyone had really looked at a single piece of evidence.
It all started in the early morning, March 23, 2015. This guy, Matthew Muller, breaks into the house where Denise and Aaron lived. And the sources, they detail this incredibly chilling attack. It was all designed for maximum control. He used a modified water pistol, rigged it with a laser pen and a stun gun to make it look like some high-tech weapon. And he forced them both to drink this soporific liquid, basically a powerful sedative.
Right, this was not an opportunistic crime. It was so methodical. He had zip ties, blacked-out swim goggles for blindfolds. Then he puts Denise in the trunk of Aaron's car, moves her to a different car, a stolen Ford Mustang, and drives her, 400 miles?
Yeah.
All the way to his place in South Lake Tahoe. And tragically, that's where she was repeatedly sexually assaulted for 2 days.
And the whole time, the kidnapper is demanding ransom. Sources say it was somewhere between $8,500 and $17,000. He sent the demands by email, and this part is key. He threatened Aaron, told him not to call the police right away, so of course Aaron waits a few hours. And that delay, that's what the police fixated on.
That delay and just how bizarre and sophisticated the whole crime seemed, that was all they needed. Their assumption was immediate. This guy's lying. So when Denise is released 2 days later in Huntington Beach, you'd expect relief, right? But no, the Vallejo Police Department, they just doubled down.
And then you have that one moment, the one that sealed it. Lieutenant Kenny Park, the police spokesperson, he holds this press conference, and he just announces to the world it was a hoax, an orchestrated event. And he says the couple owes the community an apology for wasting police resources.
Over 40 detectives, he claimed.
Can you even imagine? You survive this, and suddenly you're the villain, the real-life Gone Girl?
And it ruined them professionally. They were physical therapists. Their whole careers built on trust. But that police narrative, it just destroyed their ability to work. They've said it over and over again, that this secondary trauma, the public shaming, was more damaging than the kidnapping.
So you said the police were already convinced it was a hoax. How much of that certainty came directly from the interrogation room?
Oh, that's the core of the failure right there. Aaron Quinn was interrogated for 18 straight hours. 18 hours with two very seasoned professionals, Detective Matt Mustard and FBI Agent French. And they weren't trying to find facts. They were using these really old methods developed in the 1940s. It's a system designed to replace physical torture with psychological pressure. But the goal is the same.
Get a confession.
Always get a confession, because confessions get convictions. That's the whole philosophy.
So the goal of that 18-hour session wasn't to gather information. It was just to confirm their own theory that Aaron was involved in some kind of cover-up.
Exactly. They were just trying to break him down. The sources detail all these classic coercive tactics. They isolated him. He asked for his family, who were literally right there in the station, and the police lied. Said they didn't know where they were.
Yeah.
And then Agent French, the polygraph expert, he just straight up lied and said Aaron failed the test.
Yeah.
That's a huge psychological blow.
And then Detective Mustard starts in with that minimization technique, right? He starts suggesting a different story, something that makes it seem less evil.
It's so insidious. Mustard kept pushing this idea that Denise had died by accident. He'd say things like, "I know it was an accident," or "whatever happened in that bedroom." He was basically trying to give him an out that wasn't, cold-blooded murder.
So it's a false choice. Confess to an accident and maybe get some leniency, or stick to your story and look like a cold, ruthless killer.
And the danger there is it's off the charts.
Yeah.
You look at DNA exonerations, and nearly a third of all wrongful convictions come from a false confession, usually obtained with these exact methods. The problem is that officers like Detective Mustard, based on that old training, they truly believe they're human lie detectors. They think they can spot a lie, so they just ignore any evidence that doesn't fit their theory.
And because they were so focused on the hoax idea, they missed things, big things. The sources are really clear on this. The kidnapper called 3 times. They missed a chance to trace those calls. Aaron said it could have led them right to Denise.
And it gets worse. You have these institutional conflicts of interest. Several sources mention an FBI agent on the case, David Sesma, who had previously dated Aaron Quinn's ex-fiancée. So you combine a potential personal conflict with this deeply entrenched confirmation bias, well, it becomes impossible to investigate impartially. They were sold on their theory.
So the truth only came out months later, and it wasn't because Vallejo PD had a change of heart.
Not at all. The whole thing broke open because Matthew Muller tried a similar home invasion in Dublin, California, and he made one huge mistake. He left his cell phone at the scene.
And this is where Detective Misty Karasu comes in. She was on that Dublin case, and despite all the media noise about the Vallejo hoax, she's the one who connected the dots.
She saw the similarities, especially that really unique detail, the blacked-out swim goggles.
The same evidence the so-called veteran investigators in Vallejo just dismissed.
Yep. And once they arrested Muller at his place in South Lake Tahoe and they searched his car, it was overwhelming. They found Aaron's stolen laptop. They found the swim goggles with the blonde hair stuck to them, and the final nail in the coffin. The Huntington Beach drop-off location was still programmed into the car's GPS.
You know, Mueller's profile is really something else. He was a disbarred lawyer, Harvard-trained, and a former U.S. Marine. It explains the level of planning involved.
He was a master of psychological manipulation. He used recordings of whispering voices to make them think there were multiple attackers,
Yeah.
and that modified gun, all to maximize the terror. He later admitted he acted completely alone.
And he knew what the police were doing to his victims. He was following the news.
He was. The sources show he sent emails to a reporter at the San Francisco Chronicle. He even sent photos of the tools he used, trying to prove the kidnapping was real. He said he was frustrated that the police were destroying Denise Huskins' reputation. He was trying to defend them from the system that was supposed to protect them.
In the end, Mueller pleaded guilty to the federal kidnapping charge. He got 40 years in prison.
He did, yes. And while he later tried to claim his plea wasn't voluntary, the facts of the case, his guilt, it was all firmly established.
So, justice from the criminal side. But what about accountability for the institutions, for the police and the FBI that failed them so badly?
Well, any accountability only came after a long fight, and only because of civil pressure. Denise and Aaron sued the city of Vallejo for defamation, and in 2018 they got a settlement of $2.5 million, which is really a public admission that the police got it horribly wrong. And today, they're married, they have 2 daughters, and they've channeled all that trauma into advocacy.
But inside the department, for the actual officers involved, it's a completely different story. Detective Matt Mustard, the interrogator who was so sure Aaron was a killer, he was named Vallejo's Officer of the Year in 2015.
The very same year. It's unbelievable.
And neither the FBI nor Vallejo PD ever really gave a public explanation for how they bungled it so badly.
And that complete lack of internal consequence really highlights the systemic problem, right? Which is why this push for reform is so important. Aaron and Denise, they're now championing something called science-based interviewing, or SBI.
We've seen how bad the old confession-based system is. So how does SBI change the equation? What's the core difference?
It's a total shift in philosophy. It redefines what success even is. In the old system, success is a confession. That's it. In SBI, success is getting detailed, verifiable information. The whole approach is different. It's about building rapport, treating the person as a source of knowledge, not just a suspect.
So instead of manipulation and false choices, it's about communication, open-ended questions. It's the total opposite of what Mustard did when he told Aaron, I don't want you to say a word, I need you to listen to me. SBI is all about listening.
Exactly. And we know it works. The sources show that a team using SPI methods actually got Mueller to confess to even more unsolved crimes from the 90s, all while he was already in prison. The difference in what you can achieve is it's night and day.
And SBI is now the standard for new training in California, which is a huge win. But the fight isn't over.
Not at all. The real challenge is mandating retraining for all the veteran officers. the people who are taught that human lie detector mindset.
Hmm.
They need to unlearn it. The victims pushed for a bill that would have required exactly that, but the governor vetoed it. So their advocacy is still absolutely critical.
This whole case, the story of Denise Huskins and Aaron Quinn, it's more than just a true crime story. It's a really profound look at how institutional bias and flawed training can turn the people who are supposed to help you into another source of trauma.
If we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
this deep dive really underscores that focusing on getting the truth through information, not just getting the conviction through a confession, is the only way forward. It's the only ethical and effective path for law enforcement.
And yet, despite the success of this new method, critics point out that the officers at the center of this failure, like Detective Mustard, who got a promotion, or Agent Sesma, whose bias may have derailed the whole thing, they've mostly avoided any real accountability. So what does it say to you about a system that rewards people for actions that end up costing millions in civil rights settlements?